Good morning, everybody. Baruch Hashem. It's a beautiful day, whether you're in Miami, Florida, or even if you're in New York. It is a beautiful day out. Thank God spring is coming. That means renewal. And not just physical renewal for all of vegetation, but spiritual renewal for Klal Yisrael, for the Jewish people, for humanity. This is the month of Nisan. This is the month in which Rabbi Nachman was born. This is the month in which everything changes. This is the month of transformation. Be'ezrat Hashem, today should lead us into that place that we should be able to know how to transform, how to elevate, how to move beyond our difficulties and challenges and circumstances, and to find real light in our life. Baruch Hashem, we started yesterday a brand new lesson in Likutey Halachot. We spoke about the concept of influence. And Rabbi Nachman, as usual, has a very, very deep take on what influence means, malchut. And that this concept of malchut, or influence, is not just one in which it's for others, but really that the ikar influence that a person has is on himself. How does a person increase his power of influence? Many people often are trying to do so in order to hoodwink others, in order to get one over so they can make more money, so they can assert themselves, so they can increase their individuality or ego. However, we know that according to the Torah, the key to joy, the key to happiness, is actually to achieve bitul, that is the nullification of ego, so that one can experience their godly soul, their neshama, the light of Hashem, which is permeating them and transcending them all at once. For this, we need to wash our hands. And even though we know that the medical world understands at this point that washing hands is the key to remaining healthy, and we saw that even in the medical world, when they didn't wash their hands before they performed operations, so that was actually a greater cause of damage than the sickness that they brought in themselves, which goes to show the power of the washing of hands. Now, spiritually, the washing of hands is very deep, because we're learning that a person's ability to experience influence in a positive way, that they're able to draw themselves closer to good and to move themselves further from negativity, for that they need da'at, for that they need consciousness, for that they need love. And Rabbi Nachman teaches, and Rav Natan brings down, that the greatest revelation of love is da'at. This is God consciousness. And the Torah, and especially in Kabbalah, this is compared to water. Just like water is pure, just like water has oxygen in it, just like water refreshes and renews you. And obviously we know that there's a concept in the Jewish world of a mikveh. The mikveh, the first one, which was created on the third day of creation, this mikveh is a place in which reality is created and reality is renewed. The reason is because waters of the mikveh, they are drawn down from the Ein Sof, the light of the Ein Sof. And that pure light of love, that pure light of truth, which is not mixed with any dross, it doesn't have any additives, it doesn't have any sediment. It's pure God consciousness that's manifested in the waters of the mikveh. So Rabbi Nachman himself said, I am a mikveh. That means that anybody who jumps into me, anybody who jumps into my wisdom, anybody who jumps into my advice, they are literally mamash jumping into a mikveh. They're jumping into pure waters of love. And these waters that have chasadim, that are pure chasadim, they lift a Jew out of his challenges and difficulties, because the suffering that comes to a Jew comes from the fact that he is suffused with what's called dinim. It's a spiritual power which is called judgments or constrictions, limitations. These come for any varied number of reasons, but the way in which you nullify those dinim is with chasadim, that is love. The way in which you nullify judgment is with love. We see this even practically on an emotional level. How is it that I can, so to speak, get over my negative feelings towards this person? That Rabbi Nachman says, exchange your hatred for love. That is, that if you, instead of judging them unfavorably, you actively go against the grain and look for points in which that you love them, that is good within them, and you focus only exclusively on that, then you see that not only does your inner emotional atmosphere, your relationship towards the person change, but that Rabbi Nachman says the secret is they actually change as a result of that. That spiritually, when you look at the good in a person only, you actually cause that person changes. This is a very, very deep thing, and this is in his lesson of Bazamra. That's Reish Pei Beit in the Likutey Moharan. This is the one in which Rabbi Nachman says that we should carry in our pockets at all times. That by judging others and ourselves favorably, by looking at the good within others and ourselves, then as a result of this, we actually cause a deep transformation. Now, interestingly, we know that in the mental health world, there's a very powerful mechanism that they call positive affirmations. That is, that I say out loud positive things about myself. I have to verbally say it. And we know that people change from this. They literally start to get better just from doing this every morning. That's interesting because Rabbi Nachman came 200 years before positive affirmations. And he came from a shtetl in Ukraine, in which there was no psychological knowledge, there was no knowledge of science, there was no knowledge of neurology. And at the same time, Rabbi Nachman was machavin. He understood before that positive affirmations not only works, the reason why it works is because it's based on deep mystical Kabbalistic understanding. That is, that when you verbalize positivity about yourself and others, you affect something called the Zamra. That is, that you actually transform that entity from negative to positive. You remove that person from darkness to light. You nullify and you sweeten the judgments on that self, on that person themselves and others, and you actually cause the light of the Ein Sof to then flood into them. So now, Rav Natan says like this: Al kana baboker. That therefore, every single morning, she'az mitchadesh haruach. That we said yesterday, Rav Natan teaches, and we know this in science now, that when a person goes to sleep, all of his functions slow down. His ruach, his energy, his life force decreases. His pulse slows down. His breathing slows down. Everything slows down. But when a person wakes up in the morning, this is mechadesh haruach. This is the renewal of his energy. This is the renewal of his life force. V'choz v'nivraim kol ha'evarim, and returns and is created all of the limbs. Because prior to this, his limbs were kivyachol, so to speak, dead. Because anything which doesn't have life force is not considered alive, even if it's functional. But once something has life force, it has energy, it has excitement, it has joy, it has power. It's called alive spiritually. And what happens is that once you wake up in the morning and you have a renewal of spirit, that renewal of energy is actually what, so to speak, nullifies what was called the sadness of the body. Because sadness is lethargy. Lethargy is lack of energy, lack of life force, lack of joy. So it is, says Rav Natan, it's not just that when you wake up in the morning, now you have energy and excitement and now you're ready to go. But it's actually the fact that when you wake up in the morning, you have a renewal, and this renewal of life force nullifies the previous lack of life force. We think of ourselves as just getting up in the morning, and now we have energy. Rav Natan says, spiritually, it's not like that. When you wake up in the morning, you actually have a lot of negative energy you accumulated over the nighttime. And you need to expel and get rid of that negative energy before you can experience positive energy. Bechinat Laboker Rina. This is the reason why David HaMelech, King David, the soul of the Mashiach Tzidkenu, that he says that every night he went to sleep crying and he woke up singing. Why? Because Rav Natan says the concept of nighttime, the concept of darkness, the concept of concealment of godliness in a person's life, of spirituality, this is called nighttime for that person. And automatically, any Jew who's in nighttime, David says he cries. He's crying. And we see all over the world in our generation, Jewish people who have no connection to their authentic heritage. They're in substance abuse clinics. They're in mental health clinics. They're suffering in the privacy of their own homes. They're crying privately with nobody around them. They're in tremendous inner turmoil and emotional turbulence and pain. And what's the reason why? Because King David is teaching us that a Jew needs to see Hashem in his life. It's not like it'd be nice to have a spiritual connection. It's not that it would be nice for me to have some hikashrut attachment to spirituality. That would be good to have some tradition. David says no. Mashiach says no. That a Jew is so intertwined with Hashem. He is so one with Hashem that when he doesn't see Hashem, he doesn't know himself. So he automatically is in exile and he's crying. But in the morning he sings, because Boker, this is the concept of V'chozer Ruach Hadofek. It is the returning of the Ruach. It is now a revelation of godliness in that Jew's life that he didn't previously have, and automatically he is revitalized. He is given new life. He's given joy. His pulse quickens up. And it now enters into all of his limbs. And the essence of this takes place in the hands, because according to Kabbalah, and it's even brought down in the Shulchan Aruch, that is the code of Jewish law, when you wake up in the morning, you need to wash your hands immediately. Why? Because at nighttime, when you go to sleep, where is the greatest amount of negative energy accumulated in that person? It's in the person's hands. Because the person's hands are the place in which he interacts with the physical world. We know that physicality hides spirituality, that the world encloses Hashem. So as a result of that, it lends itself to concealment, more so than any other place. So anytime you interact with the physical world, which you do primarily through your hands, so that place is most vulnerable to concealment of Hashem, to dinim, to judgments. So therefore, as soon as we wake up from nighttime, as soon as we wake up from the previous exile and suffering of our life that took place because of the concealment of spirituality, of godliness in our life, the first thing we need to do before we can move forward is wash our hands. We need to wash our hands from these previous experiences. We need to wash our hands from the exile which we had, that in truth it was not our fault that we were suffering. We did not see Hashem in our life. Our Father was concealed from us. And as a result of that, even though we think to ourselves, okay, so what? So I'll move forward in my life. What do I need my dad for? Like many people in our generation, that they don't have a father, or even if they have one, they wish they weren't his father. Or even if they had a father, they still don't feel connected in any way and they can't wait to get out of their home. This is not the concept of the Father that the Torah brings down. This concept of the Father, especially spiritually, according to Kabbalah, we see that there's a word which is called Even. We know the Beit HaMikdash. This is the place of the origin of creation, that it's taught in Kabbalah and Chassidut, even in Chazal, in the Gemara, in the Midrash. Where did the world give birth from? We know that according to scientists nowadays, there was a primordial point of creation. There was an initial point of creation. And from this initial point, then it extended out and created all of physical reality. The reason they believe that is because that is actually a parallel to what Kabbalah taught thousands of years ago was the origin of creation. That is that there was a point, a small point of creation. And the Ramban explains 1,000 years ago in his commentary in the Torah, what looks like a scientific journal on the Big Bang, that there was this initial point in which all of creation was contained in. This point reached a point of chaos and it exploded. And this point then gave birth to all of reality. This is what the Ramban said 1,000 years ago. Rabbi Moshe Nachman, what they call Nachmanides, who was a great Kabbalist and scientist 1,000 years ago, before we knew about the Big Bang. So Where is that initial point spiritually according to the Torah? It's called the Even Shtia. The Even Shtia is the original stone of creation. This stone is in Yerushalayim. That the Torah teaches that the original point of creation spreads out from Eretz Yisrael, from the land of Israel in Yerushalayim. Now, very interestingly, even according to historians, that they don't believe in spirituality, that they believe that the world has been around for a much longer time than the Torah says it has. Still, even according to them, civilization began in the Middle East. The concept and the beginning and origins of humanity, of consciousness, started in Israel. Started in the Middle East, even according to them. The reason is because spiritually, the Torah teaches that all of conscious reality began and originated in Eretz Yisrael, and specifically in Yerushalayim. And even more specifically, in this place called the Even Shtia, the foundation stone. Now, according to the Zohar, which Rabbi Nachman brings down in Likutey Moran, Even is actually a composite of two words, Av and Ben, father and son, which is to show that the beginning of creation is when the son is one with the father. And we learn from this a very deep, practical paradigm for us in our lives, that the only time we can create a new reality within ourselves, that we can transform and elevate above our previous circumstances, is when there's an Even Shtia, is when there's a new original foundation stone. And what is Even? It is the composite of father and son. That means that once Hashem is back in the son's life, once I recognize that Hashem was there the whole time and I didn't realize it, as soon as I merely recognize it, and specifically according to Rabbi Nachman, when I verbalize that connection, now all of a sudden I have this stone. And this stone is the beginning of all of creation. This is the Even Shtia. So too, now that I realize that Hashem is in my life, now it's daytime. It's not nighttime anymore. And all of a sudden I have a revitalization of my life. First thing I need to do is wash my hands from all my previous experiences with the waters of Da'at, with the waters of God consciousness, with the Torah of Rabbi Nachman and Fega. Therefore, I need to purify my hands specifically. Because there, Rabbi Nachman says, is the ikar of depression, the essence of sadness, the essence of lethargy, the essence of feeling down, feeling low, feeling blue. Spiritually, it begins with the hands. Because when is a person depressed according to the Torah? When he doesn't see Hashem in his life. And why doesn't he feel Hashem in his life? Because he is so immersed in physicality, he can't see spirituality. Because he's so entrenched in the material limited world, he doesn't experience something which is unlimited. He doesn't experience something which is expansive, which creates, which is loving. And that's all coming from his interaction with his hands. So he needs to purify his hands. And thus make it the opposite. Atan now nimshach l'sham. Now he draws to his hands hakadusha beyoter. That now what's interesting is not only is he, so to speak, getting rid of his negative experiences in the past by putting water on his hands, meaning by putting da'at, God consciousness, onto his previously concealed perception of reality, but actually the hands, even though they are potentially the greatest vulnerability, they are the greatest cause of concealment of godliness. At the same time, once you put water on it, they actually become the greatest cause of revelation of godliness. Why? Because we know that the whole entire revelation of godliness comes, Rabbi Nachman says, mainly through tefillah, mainly through prayer, mainly through the hands. That while the hands previously are down and sad, once I wash them in water, automatically they elevate. And what is this the global universal sign of when a person goes like this? It's interesting. When a person goes like this, what does everybody know he's doing? He's looking above and he's saying, I need help. Now on paper, we reject this reality because in 2021, we want to believe so dearly and we cling to We hold on to the belief that we are in control of our lives, that we are in control of, that we cause events to take place, we cause the results in our life, we cause our successes, we cause our failures. And the Torah says, you know why we're all depressed and anxious all the time? Because that's a lie. That's not true. You do not create your reality. You don't cause events to take place in your life. You are only a conduit. You're only a vessel. You're a keli. You are a space in which creation can take place, but you're not the cause of the creation. Hashem is. And all of a sudden I get a big sigh of relief. That's something that I knew in a very deep way, that I always kind of felt, but I could never actually express, that I never really hopped in my mind. I don't control my life. I'm just a person. And that's okay. And now it makes sense why things have spiraled out. Because I don't create reality, Hashem does. And that's the beginning of creation. Once I know the source of reality, now I can make a space for it to create in my life. Like Rabbi Nachman says in the Likutey Torah, Mem Tet, a very powerful Torah about the power of thought. The Rabbi Nachman teaches, why does the Torah begin? Bereshit bar Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. Why does it begin with Reshit? This concept of in the beginning. That Chazal, our sages, taught us thousands of years ago. That the word Reshit doesn't really make sense as the first word in the Torah. That even though we translate in English as in the beginning, it doesn't mean in the beginning. Because like the most famous commentator of the Torah, Rashi, the genius of France, explains, Reshit doesn't mean first. Rishonah means in the beginning. Reshit is an adjunct. It is a description of something else. What is Reshit? It means the beginning of, the first of, the origin point. And what is Reshit? So the Midrash teaches 2,000 years ago, Reshit is the Jewish people. Meaning for the sake of the Jewish people, Hashem created all of the spiritual universes and the physical world. Reshit also means the beginning of thought. That Reshit represents Chokhmah. Like Chazal teach us, and like the Pasuk says, that Hashem created everything with wisdom. That in Kabbalah they explain this is not just a paradigm of creation that Hashem used intelligence to create the world, but there is this very deep spiritual power that's called Chokhmah, which in the 10 Sfirot, the 10 emanations of godliness, this is the highest intellectual faculty. It's called Chokhmah. And according to Kabbalah and Chassidut, this is the beginning of the revelation of the light of godliness takes place in Chokhmah, that is within a human being and their own thoughts. Therefore, when a person thinks a positive thought, Rabbi Nachman says, he now gives space for the beginning of creation. That if a person has a negative thought, he can't have Bereshit bar Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. He can't have in the beginning Hashem created Shamayim v'aretz. Why? Because the beginning of creation was the thought of the Jewish people, says the rabbi, says the sages. And that was a good thought. So Rabbi Nachman is teaching a very deep, simple teaching. That is that the Torah, which applies to us at every moment, that Bereshit, the beginning of creation, applies at every moment. So if a person wants to experience Reshit, a new moment in his life, a new creation, a new transformation, he has to do it the way the Torah says. That's the only way to create a new reality. And how does that start? With a good thought, with a machshava tova, which comes to teach you a very deep thing. That this thing which they teach in psychology, which is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, that if you think a positive thought, you'll have a positive emotion. And if you have a positive emotion, it's going to lend itself to a positive action. This is taught by Hashem himself in the Torah in the very first sentence in the entire Torah. That Hashem started with a positive thought and he created all of reality. Rabbi Nachman comes to say, it's not just the positive thinking makes you feel good. And now that you feel good, now you can act good. But that the actual positive thought itself is the breeding ground. It is the fertile dirt which allows creation to take place, that without a positive thought, you don't have a space to create. You don't allow space for Hashem to create in your life. But now that I have washed my hands, I have placed water on my hands, I have brought in an influx of God consciousness into my previously concealed Amunah. Now that I have realized that Hashem is the cause of everything that has taken place in my life, the cause of my spiraling out, the cause of my falling into an abyss, it was Hashem. But now that I know it's Hashem, I know that Hashem can also take me out. That before I was now a slave to people, places, and things. I was a slave to my historical, social circumstances. But now that I know, I'm not here because it's a genetic problem. I'm not here because I'm Nebach. I'm not here because I happen to be. I'm here because Hashem wants me to be. And if that's the case, then if Hashem wants, I can leave. Now, what am I going to do? Instead of me trying to make myself leave, I'm going to lift my hands up in tefillah and prayer and hibodedut and beg Hashem to take me out. And now not only have I removed myself from that negative space, I have literally flipped it 180. I have literally flipped it, that not only are my hands not a source of negativity or concealment in my life, but now they're the source of revelation of godliness. And purity, says the Torah, comes only through mayim, meaning only through da'at, only through God consciousness, only through the Torah of the tzaddikim, bifrat, specifically the Torah of the tzaddik emet, Rabbi Nachman ben Fega, shem bechinat hachasadim, because this da'at, this water, contains only good energy, good vibes. Bechinat da'at. This is the concept of consciousness. And through this, it's through this that you build your malchut. It's through this that you build your ability to influence yourself and others in a positive way. Because the essence of the building of the malchut, the essence of the building of the hands, the essence of the building of positive influence, that is that my left hand is under his head and my right hand is hugging him. Says Hashem about the Jewish people in Shir Shirim. Hainu, meaning ayadei ruach hadofek, meaning it's through the hands around the head. That through the head, we are now building new consciousness. And now this new ruach that is drawn into me as a result, this new life force that comes from my positive, genuine, authentic, true thoughts, that is that Hashem runs my life and I do not. Now that gives me new life force, new energy to create new reality in my life. And that it now exits my heart, v'nimshach et hayadayim, and it draws down into my hands. Ad sheyocholim lanasam el shamayim. And now I'm able to lift up my hands to Shamayim. That previously they were on the Aretz, they were in the physical world. They were busy, me trying to make things happen. And me trying to make things happen has caused my own suffering. I broke because of that. But now all of a sudden, when I stick my hands in water, when I stick my hands in the pool in Miami, all of a sudden what happens is they lift up because the water itself is causing me to realize I'm not the cause of my life. And thank God. Hashem is. It's great. He knows everything. And he loves me with an infinite love, Rabbi Nachman says, that the reason why he does anything to me is only because he loves me and only to bring me closer to him. So thank God he controls the world and not me. That all I can think about is what I'm going to have for breakfast in the morning. Can you imagine if I controlled my own life? Oh my gosh, that would be terrible. Should I have the sandwich? Should I have the eggs? Should I get the salt and pepper? Should I have the hot sauce? I don't know. It's going to put me in the bathroom after. If I go in the bathroom after, I'm going to lose a few hours. Yeah, but it's worth it. Hot sauce tastes really good. Can you imagine if I controlled my own life? Oh my gosh. And those around me? But only a person who's humble realizes that. That thank God it's Hashem who controls the world and not me. Okay, great. The pressure's off now. I don't have to be the light. I can be a vessel. And that's freeing me. And now I can become a partner in creation instead of resisting reality. And from there, a person receives words, which is the concept of machloket l'shem shamayim. Rabbi Nachman says like this: why is it difficult for a person to pray to Hashem? Because Hashem is hidden from him. Because Hashem is hidden from him, he doesn't feel compelled to speak to him. He doesn't think he's really listening. He doesn't feel that even if he is, he cares enough to do anything for him. However, once he puts his hands in water, in da'at, then he starts to realize that actually this cause of my demise, this spiraling out of my life, is actually could be the beginning of life for me. That previous to this, it was not actually so good. That when I was blazing with my friends, I actually wasn't so happy. That when I was getting with every girl that I could find, I was actually pretty empty. That when I was doing all of these destructive behaviors, I wasn't actually feeling so good. And that's the reason why I was doing all of that. But now all of a sudden that I realize that Hashem is in my life and he can give me so much good. And all I have to do is make myself a vessel for that, which I do by realizing that he's there. Now all of a sudden I can lift up my hands and I can speak to Hashem. And then you get to experience what's called machloket l'shem shamayim. That we know that a person, Rabbi Nachman says, why is it that he feels angst? Why does he feel anxiety? Why does he feel fear? Because he doesn't realize Hashem is in his life. So as a result of that, he starts to fear people, places, and things. He's constantly worried about, am I going to make it? Am I going to get the job? Does she really like me? Is she going to go out with me? Is she going to stay with me? Does she like me for me? Or she likes me for my 10-inch biceps? Yeah. Which are really coming from creatine. What happens if I get off and then they're going to go away? Is she going to stay with me? She likes me for my 6-pack. But that's only a visual illusion that I created through one of those life glitches. So what am I going to do now when it goes away? So he has machloket in his heart. He has confusion in his heart. He has disruption. He has arguments, conflict, opposition within himself. And that's what's causing his lack of peace. Rabbi Nachman says the key to lifting up and elevating this is to have godly machloket. It's to have, not to get rid of machloket, not to get rid of conflict, but to use it for good. This is what he calls in terms machloket l'shem shamayim. That I'm going to fight to learn the truth. That I'm going to push myself to experience greater levels of consciousness. That I'm going to push myself to elevate spiritually. And now instead of the machloket being in my heart, and now I'm always worried about people, places, and things, now I'm fighting in order to get closer to Hashem. And that fighting to get closer to Hashem is going to remove all of the fighting that's going on within me. That all of those self-doubts that I have about my worth and my value in this world will now nullify. They will melt away because I'm instead fighting for good. So and this all comes from da'at. This all comes from consciousness. This all comes from true knowledge. God consciousness. And the ability to influence yourself and others in a positive way, it's all drawn from knowing this. And this is the explanation of why it says in the Shulchan Aruch, based on the Gemara and Masechet Brachot, that is Daf Tet Vav. When a person gets up in the morning, Kol Nifneh, every Jew that he gets up, he goes to the bathroom. V'notel Yadav, he washes his hands. Umaniach tefillin. He then places on tefillin. V'koreh kriyat Shema, and he says Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Ilu kibel o malchut shemayim shlema. It's as if he has received upon himself emunah shlema, complete faith in Hashem, complete faith in godliness, complete faith in the reality of spirituality in this world, in my life, in the good that is coming from Hashem. Because the essence of the perfection of Malchut, which we're saying now means influence. It's It is through the subduing of negativity, va'klipot, and the negative forces in reality, hanechazin bekedusha, that are drawn and you're nullifying them with kedusha. V'zeh shekatav Rabbeinu sham, and this is what Rabbeinu, Rabbi Nachman Menfega teaches there. Sha'ikar shlemut, the essence of shlemut, the essence of perfection of the power of influence on yourself and others, lo'chiach u'yaser et ha'am, is in order to what's called rebuke. We're going to get what it means in a second. To rebuke the nation. What does rebuke mean? It means to cause and that you now lift something up from a lower place through a negative force. That is, k'dei legarish et harava klipot. That is, I'm going to expel all of the negativity and all the negative forces which have accumulated in my hands, which have accumulated in my emunah, in my faith, which have accumulated in my power of influence. This is the concept of the dross of gold, or in this case from silver. Hago, the dross of silver. Hago rasha lifnei melech. Yikon bechesed kiso. That is the dross of negativity, of silver, of kesef, which comes from the word kisufin. That means that my physical desires, which have accumulated from my hands because I believe that I'm in control of my life. Rasha lifnei melech. That the person who he has accumulated all this negativity is before the king. The Yikon is established bechesed kiso. And it's with chesed that his kingship is established, meaning that once he has put his hands in water, meaning he's put his power of negativity, he's placed it in the waters of chesed, the waters of love, the waters of God consciousness. Now all of a sudden, his throne is established, meaning his power to influence himself and others in a positive way is established. But chesed daika, specifically through chesed, through love, through kindness. Because it's through kindness and love that God consciousness is drawn down into the world. And this is why a person needs to wash his hands twice. That according to the Shulchan Aruch, he needs to go like this 2 times, at least, and lahatchila 3 times. Meaning, that best case scenario, you should try and do it 1, 2, 3. But at worst case scenario, at the very least, to be yotze, the mitzvah, to do the mitzvah, washing of the hands, you do it twice. 1, 1. That's twice, pamim. Kodem nakiyut v'achakach. Before that, he has cleaned himself, and afterwards thus. Why? Because the Torah says that in the morning when we wash our hands, we should do it twice. Why do we need to do it twice? We should do it right when we get up in the morning, before we even get up out of our beds. Then we should go to the bathroom, and when we're actually clean, we should do it again. Seems a bit much, no? Why do we have to wash our hands twice? However, Rav Natan saying it's based on very deep mystical wisdom. Because it's impossible to nullify the negativity except through the waters of da'at. Like it's brought there. Therefore needs before he even purifies his hands. In order that he should draw new God consciousness to himself, which is the concept of arichut yamim, the concept of lengthening, filling his days with good. And it's through this he's able to remove concealment of godliness from his life. Hainu, meaning legarish levatel. He's able to expel and to nullify all the klipot, amalin umastirin et kedusha. And he's able to now arouse in himself holiness, godliness. And it's through this itself that he draws down length of days, good in his days, that he's not merely surviving, he's not merely living, but he's living life, he's living a good life, he's happy, he's besimcha, he's joyful, he's anxiety-free, he's feeling good, he's not worried, he's not sad. He feels energy and strength. This all comes from Da'at. It all comes from knowing Hashem. Move Hashem, like it says there. This is the concept of doing the washing of the hands twice. In order because before I need to wash my hands to merely get rid of all the negativity. But then afterwards, I need to wash my hands again to actually draw down positivity. To draw down God consciousness. In order to draw down godly wisdom and length of days. This is all through the expelling of negativity within the human being. B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to continue next Monday. Before we take questions, I just want to tell you that this Shabbat coming up is very special. This Saturday night coming up is very special. This Shabbat is the last Shabbat of the year. It's the last day of the year, the last month of Adar. And we're moving into Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Nisan is the new month of the year. Nisan literally means miracles. The word Nisan is in conjunction with the month which is called the new month of renewal. This is the month which is called Aviv. Aviv means renewal. Aviv comes from the word Av, Yud Bet. Av means father. Yud Bet is how many months there are in a year, meaning this is the father of the new 12 months of the year. There's a complete renewal that's in potential and spiritual reality that could take place for every Jew starting this Saturday night. That's Rosh Chodesh. That Rosh Chodesh itself is a time for renewal. It's the new first day of the month. So at the day of renewal, in the time of renewal, you also have the anniversary of the birthday of our Rebbe, Rabbi Nachman Fega, that he was born on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. He was literally born on the archetypal point of renewal in reality, which is not a coincidence, because his whole entire ikar, his whole essence is renewal. It is to begin again. So therefore, anybody who's local in the New York, New Jersey area, this Saturday night, we're going to do a very special event for Rosh Chodesh Nisan, for the birthday of our Rebbe, who passed away 210 or now 211 years ago. That we're going to sing and we're going to dance and we're going to learn very deep Torah B'ezrat Hashem and connect with brotherhood, with love in Monsey, New York, 9:15 p.m. in Monsey, with a very big Rav, with a very big tzaddik, that he's the son-in-law of the Tasher Rebbe. He's called the Tasher Rav. He's a very, very big spiritual master. And he is a student of Rabbi Nachman as well. And me and him, thank God, I have the merit of being able to co-lead, so to speak, a Malava Malka with him. A fourth meal on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, on this birthday of Rabbi Nachman. Anybody who wants to go, please contact Benjamin Roberts or myself. You could text us through the WhatsApp groups. You could text us through our personal numbers. And if you want to come, we'd love to have you there. It's going to be a lot of fun, B'ezrat Hashem. We're going to draw a complete renewal, hopefully, from Hashem, with the help of Hashem, that the ruach, that the energy, the life force of Rabbi Nachman will be there mamish. Because on the day of a person's birthday, his life force is increased. His mazal is drawn down into the world in a very deep way. So we have the ability to really connect to something amazing this Saturday night. Anyone who's there in B'ezrat Hashem, I'm hoping to be able to broadcast it live as well. Let's say if you live in Miami, Florida, and you're right next to a pool. So hopefully you'll be able to see it as well Saturday night and to be a part, everybody who's there. So please reach out to us if you have any questions about it. If you want to know the address, we'll send it out to you. We're going to send out a flyer. Look at the Tzion WhatsApp groups today. There's going to be B'ezrat Hashem a flyer that goes out today with all the details. And if anybody wants the merit, the schut of sponsoring this thing, which is a very, very big merit, to get Jews to come together with love and with joy, with happiness, with truth, and to connect in the deepest way possible, and the merit and the schut of Rabbi Nachman and Fega. So we're looking for about $250 to $300 to be able to buy all the food and the drinks and the festivities, everything that we need to make this a really fun, amazing event. So anybody who wants the merit of either contributing the whole thing, that the whole merit will be in your merit, or if you want to contribute any part of it. So please reach out to us so that we can gather these funds to do something amazing for the Jewish people. and Bezrat Hashem bring a new light into the world. Anybody have any questions from what we've done this week in Likutey Halachot, this new lesson that we have started on Netilat Yadayim?
Shalom, Rabbi. How are you?
Great, Baruch Hashem. How are you?
Baruch Hashem, doing great. Can you remind me what's the Likutey Halachot that we're starting today, the Torah number?
Sure. This is Likutey Halachot. This is Halacha Gimel. This is the third Halach. Oh, sorry. That's where I am myself. Sorry. This is Halacha Aleph in the first section, meaning we just did Hashkamat Boker. That's what we were working on for months. That is the laws of getting up in the morning. We finished that. Now we have moved into the laws of washing the hands in the morning. What are the deeper reasons for why we wash our hands in the morning? So this is the very first halacha in the laws of washing the hands in the morning.
Okay, so that's in the first section.
The first section of the second part, meaning we already did the first part of the Shulchan Aruch. We already did the laws of getting up in the morning. We've moved on to the laws of washing the hands. Once you get to the laws of washing the hands, you'll see there it's the very first halacha there. It's the very first section. Any other questions?
Rabbi, I'm sorry. The first question that I had was you mentioned something about the stone, the heaven or even stia.
Evan stia, yeah.
Evan stia. What is the Evan stia mean again?
Evan means stone. Stia is the foundation. It's the Evan stia. It's the foundation stone.
Oh, so that gets me to Psalms 118:22, correct?
What does it say there, Daniel?
I'll read it to you. Give me 1 second. So I'm gonna start from the 19, so we can understand what it's talking about. It says, "Open the gates of victory for me, that I might enter then and praise Hashem." That this is the gateway to Hashem, to Lord. It says here, "The victorious shall enter through it. I praise you. You have answered me and have become my deliverance. The stone that the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone." Oh,
beautiful. Yeah. So this is connected to that stone. That stone is actually referring to Mashiach. That stone is actually referring to the tzaddik, that even though everybody rejects him, just like it says in the Gemara that in the time of David, when he was alive, everybody thought he was a balavera, meaning that he was constantly doing the opposite of what Hashem said to do. But that was only because of a misunderstanding of him and a misunderstanding of how he came to his decisions and the Ruach HaKodesh which he had in which he was drawing his decisions. So he's called the foundation stone, which was originally despised, but ends up becoming the foundation. So too, this is connected to Yosef as well. So that stone is actually referring to what it says about Yosef, that he's Evan Yisrael, that Yaakov called him the stone of Israel, that his brothers despised him, but he ends up becoming the foundation. But these 2 points are connected because
you were breaking up. I apologize. Can you please?
Yeah, so I was saying that the Evan Shtia, the Evan that you're referring to, the stone is speaking about Evan Yisrael, that Yaakov said about Yosef Atzadik, that he's the Evan Yisrael, that he's the despised brother, that everybody hates him and doesn't understand him, but ultimately he becomes the foundation for Klal Yisrael. He becomes the Rosh B'nai Yisrael, the head of the Jewish people. So they're connected, though. These two things are connected.
Okay, so that Psalms is connected to that, and you're saying is referring to Mashiach? That is
yes, it's referring to Mashiach, it's referring to Yosef, it's referring to David, it's referring to these people, that they are the leaders of the Jewish people, that they're going to take us out of exile and bring us to redemption, that originally they always are despised by those around them. But ultimately, that person that's despised, who had that original traumatic childhood experience, ends up becoming the actual foundation for not just the Jewish people, but the whole world.
I see. Now, you mentioned something about the son, right? And the father, like the son becoming the son one with the father. Is that related to where we say hold on, let me put my thoughts together. V'ne'emar v'chaya Adonai. In that day, Hashem will be one, and His name will be one.
Yes. Very
Okay.
deep. Beautiful, Daniel. I'm proud of you. Very good. That's exactly what it is. Rabbi Nachman teaches that the concept of Father and Son being together is the concept of Hashem being one and His name being one. Because the Jewish people are ourselves, we're called, so to speak, Hashem's name. Because what does a name do? It calls attention to a person. It calls reality to that person. It is through the Jewish people that the whole world gets to experience Hashem. So, Kiviyachol, so to speak, we are Hashem's name. So when the Jewish people become one and we are His son, so as a result of that, Hashem is one, His name is one, meaning Father and Son are together. And that's the cause of the redemption. Very good, Daniel. Beautiful.
Last question, Rabbi. So how does one teach its negativities into the waters, into, let's say, the waters of Da'at, in other words, the Tzaddik, right? That's what you mean, the Tzaddik?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he learns the Torah of the Tzaddik.
So that's how you deep your negativity. I'm sorry.
And you remove it.
Right. So to learning his Torah.
Yes.
To give the Daka. What was the third one?
Oh, so you learn. Oh, you're saying how to connect him. Yeah. So you learn his Torah.
No. How to dip your negativities into
the
the
dipping of your negativities into the water. That is by learning the Torah of the Tzaddik. When you learn his Torah, and you actually machades, Rabbi Nachman says, meaning you try and make your own understandings of his Torah. This is what purifies you. So the more that you can learn his Torah and bring it into your life, the more you will see that the negativity becomes lifted from you.
So bring it into your life.
Right.
Now, I have this thing that when I was coming to, to learn Judaism, I came and I studied only the sternal, right? Only the,
outside.
to put in the outside without being circumcised. So, wearing the kippah, the talit, I wanted to wear everything. I wanted just to grow my beard. Everything external. You understand? Right. And then Hashem started working with me. And now that I'm here in this class and I was listening to what you were saying, and it came to me that Hashem was, it came to me such a great joy, because Hashem was working through me through these things, that because they kicked me out from where I was going. They say, no, you can't do this. You have to, pass through a conversion. You have to do this. You have to do a process. So I didn't understand it at the moment. I just wanted to, right. And I didn't fix my things inside, my negativity. So, I was still working on all the bad things inside of me. So right. I felt rejected by Hashem, because they kicked me out. So it was like, okay, so Hashem is rejecting me, I felt, right. I started crying, whatever. So the thing that I had today that it came to me is that I know Hashem put all these physical, let's say the material for us, right? To elevate it.
Right.
But how are we gonna elevate this material stuff like tzitzit or washing of the hands, or all the mitzvahs that we have, the material mitzvahs that we are so matpi to it, that we like want to do it exactly how you do it, it's the precision, very meticulous with how we do it, but we are not thinking of working on of the inside, because how are we gonna elevate the material, the midot, the mitzvah, if we're not, so Daniel, not working inside of us?
Daniel, first of all, everything you're saying is beautiful. You know who says what you said?
Who?
Rabbi Nachman.
Oh.
He says the same exact thing. This is why when you see the students of Rabbi Nachman, it's not about something external. That Rabbi Nachman says that you should not be makpid in halakha. You should not be busy with trying to do everything exactly right. You need to do the basic things that it says, but your main focus should be on growing spiritually, like you're saying. So you're 100% right. I'm with you. Okay. Amazing. By the way, you should know Rabbi Nachman says that every time that a person feels that he's being rejected by Hashem, every time a person is being caused distance, like you had, in a very visceral, very real way, he says it's nothing other than being drawn closer. So like you said, and this is something that only comes with time and experience, if you don't give up, you see that in fact, it was, so to speak, what appeared to be the rejection that caused the internal work, which that itself is what makes a person close to Hashem. It's not the beard, and it's not the clothes, and it's not the kippah. So because of that, you see that in fact, it's a very deep thing. We take it as the greatest source of pain because we think we're being rejected. And in fact, what's being rejected is the thing that we don't realize is not connecting us to Hashem. And it's forcing us to actually do what we want to. That's the reason why we're coming to convert. That's the reason why we want to become Baal Tshuva. And that's why Rabbi Nachman says, do not be fooled if you are a Baal Tshuva or a convert. Do not be fooled if in the beginning of that process, you feel that everything that you're doing is being rejected. He says, all this rejection is only to bring you so close. So it's a very beautiful point, Daniel, and it's a great way to finish this class.
No, and Rabbi, just a quick thing. And it got into me because it's saying like, if I want to wear tzitzits, first of all, I have to stop washing bad stuff,
Right.
What guarding my eyes of if you see a woman in the street or if you wanna wear something so holy, you have
Right.
to do this. So it's so important that Hashem did this like this, because if you first worked in your midot, you fix them, obviously Hashem gives you the strength to fix them, and
Right.
then now you could wear them. Now you say, okay, now you're able to do this. Now you're able to do this, because how am I gonna elevate this mitzvah or this material thing? How am I gonna elevate it if I'm not keeping it? You understand what I'm saying?
You got it, brother. Emet, you got it. Very good. Okay, everybody have an amazing day. Have an amazing Shabbat. Have an amazing Rosh Chodesh. Nisan, Bezrat Hashem, you'll be with us for the Rebbe's birthday. If not, and you're on your own, I highly suggest that you light a candle and you have a very deep prayer to Hashem to be able to draw closer to Him this year, to achieve peace in your life.